Hits like Coca-Cola, Levi Strauss, Johnny Carson and Mickey Mouse. The first star was James Dean. Elvis Presley, yeah, he's still the king. Some things are only imitatable. You can't beat an original. Oh, you can't beat an original.
Hey there, friends and foes. I am so excited here on Back of the Cereal Box to be sitting next to a legend of stage and screen, Patrick Cronin. You've seen him in everything. On Seinfeld and Alice and Different Strokes and
Star Trek,
everything.
Yeah,
Everything. You're one of those guys. We talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I used to, in my younger days, I'm 81 now, in my younger days, I looked like Ned Beatty.
Yeah, oh yes, yeah.
And so I would have people come up to me on the street in Hollywood and they'd say, I love Deliverance. I'd go, yeah, it's a great movie. And they'd go, would you sign my, and I started to explain who I wasn't, and they got disappointed. So eventually, when enough people just asked, I just said, I signed Ned Beatty. So I became a friend of his at auditions. And I said, I'm covering for you, Ned.
Now, did you ever do anything with Ned Beatty?
No, we would just be one of those, I'd run into him at auditions for things.
Because that seems like a natural that you guys could like play brothers on screen.
We could have, it just never hit. But we were starting off camera, fun things. I spent 25 years in Hollywood, and I was at Grauman's Chinese on Hollywood Boulevard, Star Trek in 1977.
Star Wars,
rather, in 1977, and I bought a T-shirt. I'm wearing one from Planet Hollywood, which is long out of business. But it was fun growing up then, or being alive young in Hollywood. And of course, I survived the 6.8 earthquake. That was great fun.
Oh, wow, yeah, that interrupted the World Series.
Yes, my goodness, yes. And I did a lot of...
What was that, 96?
Oh, goodness.
Or was it before then? No, it was before then.
It was
yeah,
before
in the
then.
80s, yeah.
Yeah, it was in the 80s. I'm trying to think when exactly. I lived in a section of LA called Hancock Park, which was, when I bought there, on the comeback, as it were. And, the rich areas of Beverly Hills and Brentwood and Palisades. But this was a great area, and as it grew, it became the place where New York and Chicago actors wanted to live. So I had Gary Sinise and John Malkovich as neighbors. So that was, what was fun in Hollywood, my kids grew up there.
Yeah.
And I coached baseball for 10 years. And on my baseball team was Josh Groban, Mike and Gyllenhaal, the two Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
And Josh Groban and Denzel Washington's kids.
That's phenomenal.
I mean, it was just, and I turned to my wife. We had a game where the parents played the varsity, and my kids went to Brentwood. And on the parent team was Jim Belushi, John Lithgow, Billy Crystal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Leonard Nimoy. And I turned to my wife and I said, nah, not Kansas anymore, darling. Not anymore.
That's phenomenal. Now, I grew up watching you on all of these different programs that you were on. I remember you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you almost always showing up as a cop. Did you play a cop more than anything?
More than anything. I was or an immigration officer, or like a Different Strokes, when the little kids were throwing bombs out of their window, and I showed up as an FBI agent. And so, or an immigration officer. Yeah, no, I played plenty of those. Then I was a cop on Hill Street Blues.
Yeah.
That was great fun. And my other sort of genre was insurance agents. So I was telling people they weren't covered.
Now, you were on Star Trek Next Generation.
Yes.
Who did you play on that?
I played, if you Google me, if you Google Urko, E-R-K-O,
Okay.
Star Trek TNG, up comes my picture on the show. And actually, there's a fan base in Germany for my character.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, what is collectible? you
Yeah.
know? And so, anyway, I played the Minister of Culture on the most boring planet in the universe. And my boss, who was the prime minister of the country, was going to marry Gene Roddenberry's widow. She did a half a dozen episodes. And on this one, and she always ended up, well, sort of like Kramer always getting fired on Seinfeld. She always ended up not marrying the guy. He went on like 6 episodes. And my boss was one of her non-marries. And the last scene, very funny. We were very prudish and very boring. We were really dull. And so we're standing there waiting for the wedding ceremony, which was some big Vulcan Satyrian ceremony. And in comes Gene Roddenberry's widow, naked. So they did a back shot and they used a body double. And of course, I'm standing there with my boss and I'm appalled, and I cover his eyes. It's the last shot of the scene. But it was great fun. It was the last season of Star Trek TNG.
Okay.
And in between scenes, I was there for 8 days. And Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes were doing Romeo and Juliet. They knew the entire script. Patrick Stewart played Juliet. He was extraordinary. And so, anyway, lots of fun things that happened working there. My wife, Lord rest her, died young. She was on Happy Days.
Okay.
And Wonder Woman. And it was, my 2 kids grew up there. My younger son was in Jerry Maguire. And my older son is now, if you Google him, one of the 15 most successful book readers in the world. He's read over 1,200 books.
Audio books?
Yeah. Mostly for Audible, but a lot of other companies as well.
That's phenomenal, isn't it? That how our kids follow in our footsteps in some ways. Maybe it's not the exact same craft, but like, my son, he's 22. He's gotten into photography and film and video production. And my daughter is an actress, dancer, and singer, and she's going to be a big star of the Broadway stage before it's said and done. And I did that for 30 years, touring the country on stage. And
what shows were you in?
I produced my own show called Swinging at the Roxy, and we did it. I did it from 2000 until 2010, and produced it off Broadway, and we did theaters all across the country. And but then I did a tour of Closer Than Ever by Maltby and Shire.
That's a wonderful show.
I did a tour of Broadway Swing, and
So you're a dancer as well.
I was once upon a time. Yeah. But anyway, so it's fun how that happens. Now, you were on Seinfeld.
That was, yes. Of all the shows, I did 200 shows in a 25-year period. And that was my favorite. First of all, it was very difficult to get on the shows. There are shows that are popular with the country, like Home Improvement. I was a regular on there as well. But Seinfeld was also popular with the industry.
Okay.
I mean, like
everyone wanted to be on it.
Everybody wanted to be on it. And when we tape live, as those shows do, and at my taping, I was Diane Keaton and Woody Allen were there. I mean, that was the kind of audience they got live. Whereas at Home Improvement, the audiences were great, but they were all from Iowa or Indiana, It was not an industry show.
That's interesting.
You know, I mean, popular, actually more popular than Seinfeld, really. And
in my opinion, Seinfeld is one of the top 5 greatest comedies ever made.
no question, no question. When I auditioned, I was the bra manufacturer. And
That's right. I remember.
And I did 2 episodes. I hired Kramer to sell brassieres, and then they came to me. Jerry Stiller, the dad, came to me with an idea
bro.
for men's brassieres, and
That's a great episode.
the line was, you know, you're onto something. You know, selling brassieres exclusively to women, we're only utilizing 50% of the market. I mean, the guy really was impressed with this whole concept. So when I auditioned for Larry David, who was really a genius, the word gets thrown around a lot. I met 2 geniuses in Hollywood in 25 years, Larry David and James Burrows.
Okay.
Cheers. I mean, he was a brilliant director.
And Cheers is another one in my top 5 greatest comedies ever made.
Great comedy to work on. I played a guy, Ted Danson's T-shirt was being auctioned on PBS to raise money. And every time they'd have an item come up and people were bidding, and then they'd bring up his jersey from the baseball team,
Yeah.
and everything went silent. So now all of a sudden the regulars in the bars started to bid, and he'd find out about it and beat them up over it. He'd say, no. So finally they show the jersey again, and I buy it, big price. So at the last episode, in the episode is last scene, I come in with the jersey, and Ted said, a real fan is here. He wants my jersey to be signed by me. And I came up and said, oh, is this your jersey? He said, yes, it is. And you want it on the front or the back? He said, no. I came to give it back to you. I figured it might be worth something to you. I just wanted it off the air.
I remember that episode. That was so great. That was so great.
Fun. I mean, some shows were fun to work on, you know, the quality of it.
So my top 5 greatest television comedies:
Okay.
Seinfeld, Cheers,
Yeah.
All in the Family,
I was in all 3.
MASH,
No, did not do.
and it's a tie for me between Arrested Development and Sanford and Son.
I did Sanford.
Yes.
So I did 4 out of your 5.
You held him up. You
I
were the
held him up.
Yeah.
I was a jewelry thief. Yes. And that was great fun too. As a kid in Philadelphia, apropos of your show and stuff, I used to go to the candy store and I would buy Red Fox's albums under the table. You know, those were the days. They'd be PG-13 now, but back in the 40s and 50s, it was hot material. So.
When I was in college, I got to study with him, and he gave me the 2 best pieces of advice I've ever gotten in my career. He said, "Kid, always play to the cheap seats."
Yep.
And then he said, "You're nobody in this business until someone's trying to tear you down."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, he was just extraordinary. And, well, I have somebody who might actually be interested in my...
Well, you know what? We'll let you get back to we'll let you get back to business. This has been phenomenal. Just sharing some time with you.
I want to say for your fans, I've been in this business since I was 3 years old, and this gentleman has the best energy I have ever seen. I get tired watching him.
Oh, thank you. That is so
really
kind.
Great.
That
really
is so
great.
kind.
You're lucky to have him if you're watching his shows. It's really terrific.
Thank you.
I'll
I'll pay you your $20 later. Come on down to Hitchhiker Toys in White House, Tennessee, where we've got toys for all ages. Action figures galore like DC and Marvel characters. We've got Star Wars toys and accessories, and of course, your favorite pro wrestling action figures. Check out our huge selection of Funko Pops, along with a selection of graded Pokemon cards, vintage board games and puzzles, Hot Wheels, Matchbox cars. We've got plush toys and a great selection of Barbie and fashion toys. And if you've got some old toys laying around, bring them to us. We buy, sell, and trade, and no collection is too big or too small. Hitchhiker Toys is located conveniently at 141 Edenway Drive, Suite A in White House, Tennessee, 37188. Turn by the subway, and we're located in the shopping center between White House Nutrition and White House Produce. You can't miss us. Hours are Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 6, Sunday, 12 to 5, and closed on Monday. Make sure to visit us at hitchhikertoys.com.